How about to go there? How about to go there? How about to go where? How about to go here? How about to go here? How about now?
How to make money buying tax liens. Welcome back. Everyone wants to make money. That's an understatement, and I'm sure we can all agree. However, not everyone wants to work at it, and not everyone is interested in following the rules. So you'll have to follow the rules if you're going to make money with tax liens and tax deeds. I don't make the rule, the county does. So I'm Ted Thomas. I've been involved with tax defaulted property for over 30 years, and I've been teaching people and guiding people so they could experience the same thing I have, and that's you can be able to make money with tax liens and tax defaulted property. The whole key to the business is knowing the rules, following the rules, and then ultimately learning how to sell tax defaulted property if you do get one. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about tax lien certificates. It's a phenomenon that's taking place in about half of the counties in the United States. All of the counties in the United States are allowed to sell tax defaulted property. About half of the counties, prior to that kind of auction, half of the counties are allowed to sell tax lien certificate. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So what is a tax lien certificate? It's an official claim that that county has on that property. It's an official claim that you owe taxes if you own that property. Now, lots of people don't pay their property tax, and so now the county is going to claim that their rights in that property as soon as the taxes are not paid. So the consequence of not paying taxes is ultimately the property owner will lose the property. In other words, the county will seize the property, they'll confiscate the property, and then they'll resell it at auction.
5,000 to go. At 10, 20,000 to go. 20, we have it at 25. 25, it here to 30. How about 30?
All right, so but people that buy tax lien certificates, they buy a certificate that allows them interest income, which I'll cover, and it allows the property owner to stay on the property. So if you're wondering when they're sold, it's a really simple process. The county needs money. So what will the county do? Well, someone will go into default. They will send them a default notice, just a big default notice, and that's called due process. They let them know what they're going to do. In other words, the county's going to tell the property owner what's going to happen. If the property owner doesn't pay the tax, now the county has a problem. So what they do is they sell a tax lien certificate. It's nothing more, I'm reaching for one here. It's nothing more than a piece of paper like I'm holding up. All right, so now that piece of paper, they're going to sell that. All right, when you buy a tax certificate, you did that by raising your hand, you bought it at auction, and then you pay the amount of the tax certificate to the local government. Now that allows the government to pay their bills. So the government's now happy. What about you? Well, you're going to wait. It's a passive investment. You're just going to sit on your rusty dusty. You're not going to do anything. Meanwhile, what's the government doing? They're paying the school teachers. They're paying the firefighters, paying the police department, sheriff department, paying the county employees. What are you doing? You're doing nothing. You're sitting on your rusty dusty, and depending upon where you're buying those certificates, you could be earning 16, 18, 24, all the way up to 36% on your money. Now, who made all this possible? Well, the legislature of the state makes the rules. They tell the county, push all the rules down to the county supervisors, and either that or the county commissioners. They tell the sheriff and they tell the tax collector, look, levy the tax, collect the tax. If you can't collect it, send out a tax lien certificate. Now, they're going to pay you because you help pay the county bills. They're going to make sure that you can earn 16, 18, 24, all the way up to 36% interest, depending upon which state that you're going to buy it in. So tax lien certificates pay outrageous amounts of interest. Now, you're going to have to learn a little bit. Why? Because these property owners, they're going to be able to stay in the property for the whole time. In other words, when you buy the certificate, you have no rights in that property. What does that mean? That means you can't go there, you can't bother the tenant or the person that lives there, you can't bother anybody. What you do is it's a passive investment. You just buy the certificate, leave it on your desk, and you wait to get paid. All right, now the property owners can stay on the property, even though they're in default, for as much as 2 years in Florida and 3 years in other states. All right, now you're saying to yourself, wait a minute, Ted, if I buy one of these certificates, am I going to get paid back? I'll be right back and I'll tell you. Millions of certificates are sold nationwide. I mean millions. Just in Florida, each year they'll have 1 million certificates. Now in Florida, when you raise your hand and you buy a certificate, that certificate could be outstanding for 2 years. Property owner stays on the property. At the end of 2 years, if they haven't paid you, in Florida, you have to then petition the county to have another auction. But in other states, what happens is it might go 3 years, and at the end of 3 years, if the property owner hasn't paid you, then you're going to get the property. It's as simple as that. Now, I'm not going to go through the foreclosure process because I don't have time with it right now. But the property owner is allowed to stay on the property until the redemption period has passed. All tax lien certificates will have a redemption period. It's usually between 2 and 3 years. All right, now the certificate holder, that's you that bought it, you have no rights to the property. You just have rights to income. So the county is saying to you, if you buy the certificate, we're going to give you two things. One, you're either going to get income from that certificate, or the second thing is, if you don't get paid, you're going to get the property. So that's what protects you. You're either going to get income or you're going to get the property. It's one or the other. Do you see those little white circles? That's how many auctions are taking place within that state in the next 90 days. This calendar updates every single day. I'm here today to show you how to make money. To do that, I'm going to show you briefly that there are thousands of tax defaulted real estate properties across the 3,000 plus counties in the United States. This is quite interesting. You're looking at the Ted Thomas Magic Interactive Map and Auction Calendar. It changes every day. Now, I created the calendar and the map so I would know how many auctions are taking place every day in the United States. Now I can show the little guy how to make money. Most importantly, I created this system so I could have an auction list for each auction 24/7. All right, the county makes a covenant, which is a promise, that when you buy that certificate, you'll either get income or you get the property. All right, now, do you have to research those? Well, I'm going to tell you yes, because what if you bought a burned down house? What if you bought a property that was underwater? So you need to look and figure out what the condition of that tax lien certificate is. Now, thousands of people go to auctions and they just buy certificates and hope it's going to work. You want to check those properties out. All right, so now the owner is going to get paid from the county, but they're only going to get paid if you bought a certificate that has some value. So don't buy a certificate that you haven't checked the condition. I tell people they should look at them, even if you just looked at them with a satellite or you had someone drive by, make sure something was there. But if the property, if there's nothing there and it has no value, well, your money's going to be lost, so you don't want to do that. All right, so tax certificates usually work as auctions in reverse. In other words, let's say in Florida, they start at 18%, then 17.5, 17, then it's going to go 16.5, 16. In other words, a reverse auction. Now, sometimes they go around the room with the auction, whatever, but basically, they're reverse auction. The lowest bidder gets a tax lien certificate. This is the opposite of going to a property auction.
How about to go there? How about to go there? How about to go where? How about to go here? How about now?
So you're at a property auction. They're going to auction the property, probably starting at back taxes, and then the highest bidder gets it. That's a property auction. But now we're talking about how to make money buying tax liens. Well, you're going to make money buying tax liens by being able to don't bid it down too much. So when say 18%, don't bid it all the way down to 1% because you're only going to get 1%. All right, so stop bidding. Know what you're going to do. All right, so a lot of people don't understand, and they just go and bid 1%. Well, that's what you're going to get. It could go as low as a half of 1% or a quarter of 1%. All right, so how are you going to get paid? Well, you're going to get paid from the county when the property owner shows up to redeem their tax certificate. Remember, what you bought is you bought a piece of paper, a tax lien certificate. So you bought it, you took it home, you put it on your desk, now you're sitting on your rusty dusty. Now when that property owner comes in, whether it's 2 months, 10 months, or up to 24 months in Florida, anytime they come in, they have to pay the full value that you invested and whatever the high interest rate was. So if you bought a tax certificate this year, by all means, when they ask you, do you want to pay next year's, pay both years. That way, when the property owner comes in, they have to pay you both years plus the interest. Now, you're going to give the certificate back to them, and they're going to give you a check. It's a very simple system. Does it work? It's worked for hundreds of years. Yes, hundreds of years. All right, now here's the big question. I've already said it, but I'm going to say it again. People don't completely understand. When you buy a tax certificate, you need to look and see what it is. You need to know that there's something there. If it was underwater, don't buy it because no one's going to redeem it. But if it's a nice house and it's something that's of value, people are going to redeem it. In other words, they don't want to lose their property. So keep that in mind. All right, now you're saying to yourself in the back of your mind, the question is going to come up. Well, Ted, if they didn't pay the government, why are they going to pay me? All right, only two things can happen with a tax certificate, and this is your answer. One, if you bought a valuable property, you're either going to get paid because they'll redeem, or if they don't get paid, you're going to end up with the property because the county doesn't want the property. So what the county's going to do if they don't pay, in Florida they have another auction, but most other places you'll automatically get the other property. So you're kind of getting it. All right, so now I'm running out of time, so that's about all I have time for now. Just remember, tax lien states are very benevolent. Number two thing that you want to remember is that you want to check the property. I always say boots on the ground, but you could have someone go and look at it. You definitely want to use all the electronic sites you can and make sure that you're buying something valuable. And you don't have to worry about selling because what's going to happen? Well, if you don't get the property, you're going to get paid. But if you do get the property, then you have to start thinking, have you learned the selling techniques? And I'll give you those in another video. I'm Ted Thomas. Don't forget, request your free auction list right below me.